Welcome everybody today. Really glad that you were able to make it today in person and online. And we're so excited for our speaker today. Allyson Chavez is a success coach for professional women, and she helps women to learn how to achieve those levels of success in a more feminine way. And so just a smidgen of what that means is you've probably, like me, sought for success and run into, I've just got to get it done. I've got to work through this. I've got to plow through this program. But that doesn't work so well for us women. And it works so much better if we flow, if we follow our intuition, our natural feminine intuition. And Amen. Totally. And we can move through and flow through and find success in a much more peaceful way. And Allyson is a past personal coach of mine. And somewhat still currently. She's incredible. I learned so much. She really helped me through a very difficult time in my business of trying to determine when I was shifting direction in my business, how to make that shift and how to flow through it without all the struggle and frustration and challenge. And it ended up being a beautiful, inspirational experience. And I hope that you learn tons from Allyson today. I'm sure you will. She's incredible, and I'm excited to share her with you.
Thank you, Kitty. Thanks, Kitty. Hello, everybody. Hello, student friends. I'm like Kitty. I want to look down here, but you're right there. So hello. I'm going to set my timer because I tend to wax eloquent about things I'm really, really passionate about. I want everybody to take a nice deep breath with me. And out. One more. And out. All right, let's do 3. It's a perfect number. Last one. Deep breath in. And out. I remember it very, very vividly. It was several years ago, but I found myself sitting in the darkest, coldest conference room I had ever experienced in my life. I was in Orlando, Florida. I had just recently hit rock bottom of a very impressive 2.5-year financial freefall. It was landing in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And I knew I needed to get to that conference in Orlando. I didn't know why, I just knew I needed to be there. So I scraped together enough money to get a red-eye ticket from Salt Lake to Orlando. I filled my carry-on case with granola bars and nuts so that I would only be buying 1 meal a day. And I roomed with 3 literal strangers so that I could save on hotel costs. Anybody been in a similar situation? Okay, so we're in good company here. I'm not the only one doing this. And for 3 days, I listened to speaker after speaker go across that stage talking about their stories from tragedy to triumph. It had a lot to do with money, and they were all offering something. When I came to the conference, I had a conversation with God, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna follow nudges. I'm gonna follow pings. Whatever it is that I feel pulled to do, I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna worry about the cost or any of those things. And it was a very, very uplifting, very healing 3 days. But when we got to day 3, I hadn't felt pulled to anybody's offer. Like I could see how it would help me in my business. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But I didn't feel pulled to it. And then this woman came across the stage and she opened her mouth and she started talking about feminine energy. And it struck me right in my heart. And I knew instantly she was the next person that I needed to work with. There was a voice that came so clearly into my head: whatever she buys or whatever she's selling, you buy it. She is the next one. And I see heads nodding. Anybody nodding on, yeah, Kitty is like, oh yes, Kitty's like the queen of that. It's amazing. So I thought, okay, all right, like we got no money, but her offer will probably be 1,000, 1,500 maybe, because that's what everybody else's offers had been. Oh no. Her offer was a 2-day retreat in California for $3,500. And I had to get myself there and feed myself and house myself. So we're talking a little over $4,000. But ladies, gents, I knew I needed to be there. And I knew that was one of the most, oh my gosh, I'm going to start moving to that music. Sorry. We're talking about feminine today. Can you tell? That was one of the clearest intuitive hits I've ever received. I had no idea how we were going to pay for it. Credit wasn't an option. We were getting ready to file bankruptcy. I filled that order form out. I marched to the back table. I slapped it down on the table and I was like, don't run that card yet. I need to move some stuff around. We're filing bankruptcy. Is that the best thing you could ever hear from somebody that wants to work with you? Oh,
And they've done that.
right? Yeah, I'm in good company. And they were very kind. They were very kind. I said, no, I don't run it yet. And they did. Now, thankfully, it was payment plans. So we did have enough to cover like the first payment. And they called back and they were like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. We didn't see the note. We can refund your money. It's fine. And I thought, no, this is happening because God wants me to trust more and to really lean more into like the moment and just letting things be. And I said, no, don't refund it. It will be fine. Everything's okay. And through other miracles and other things that happened, I got myself to that event and I knew that something really incredible was going to happen at that event because God had told me to go there. And my whole world shifted in the most beautiful ways. I had been, at that time, I'd been in the online space for 6 or 7 years. I built my company from the ground up in about 2 years. We were doing multiple 6 figures. Now, I had never made that kind of money before. I built this company in hustle, in grind, in abject terror, quite honestly, most of the time, because I was way, way outside of my comfort zone. I worked long hours. I pushed past exhaustion. I remember telling my hot husband over there, who in their right mind would ever want to be an entrepreneur? This is awful. I'm getting some nods over here. Like, are you tracking with me online as well? Like, I was like, this is the worst experience ever. Why would anybody want to be an entrepreneur? Now, the reason why my business grew fast, we were making $25,000 a month. I've never made that kind of money before. We think that if we make money really quickly, we can handle it. We cannot. We don't have the belief system in place. We don't have the structure in place to actually hold that kind of money if it comes really, really quickly. And so when my business started to fall, I started to work harder. I remember having conversations with people and I was like, why is it that the more I do this, the worse I get? Because the harder I worked, the faster it fell. And then there was all of the chatter of I'm not enough and I'm the world's biggest loser. And now I've hurt my family because a bankruptcy, if you're single, like, oh, okay, I screwed up, I'll learn. But there were 5 other lives directly impacted by this, my husband and our 4 children. And when I finally just put the beat up stick of not enoughness down, and I thought, okay, I created what I didn't want because my biggest fear was bankruptcy. Anybody's biggest fear ever is bankruptcy, or am I the only one?
Well, yeah, for the first time.
For the first time, well, it happens. Actually, okay. It was the best blessing of our life. It was a great, I mean, and I don't recommend it as a matter of course, I'm not going to go back there and do it again. I learned what I needed to learn the first time, I'm pretty sure. But I when I had all of those pieces, I was like, what I'm teaching, I mean, you guys, I was teaching mindset. I was teaching universal laws. I knew what I was teaching was true, but I also knew that my approach was off. And it wasn't until I got myself to this conference and she started talking about feminine energy that just everything clicked. When I let go of the pressure and I got into the pleasure, you want to know what happened? We went from bankruptcy to $232,000 in 6 months. Now, leading up to this point, I had gained 45 pounds. Now, I have some big girl shoes on. I'm only 5'2". I'm still short in these shoes. I'm 5'2", so 45 pounds on this little frame. I was pretty fluffy. I'll tell you what. But and this is why, because I was so terrified to fall, and my body loves me so much. It was like, let's cushion her fall then. And what better way to cushion a fall than 45 extra pounds to your butt? So I had gained weight. It's just amazing. My husband is absolutely incredible. He stayed with me through this whole time because I couldn't be present with him. I couldn't be present with our 4 children. I was running into so much guilt. So then I learned feminine. And now the pressure, I'm learning how to get into pleasure and get out of pressure. We go from bankruptcy to $232,000. The weight melted off. And it was easy. I mean, I had to put effort into it. I wasn't like, shoving my cake hole full of peanut M&Ms like I did before. Like I've made different choices, but it was easy and it was effortless. And I had so much great support. I went from 6 clients to 97 clients in that same amount of time because I did 3 things. We're going to talk about the one thing that I did that's going to be the most impactful for you is I led with my feminine and I let my masculine support. So anybody familiar with feminine and masculine energies? Have you heard that before? Okay. Are you kind of like, I think I get it, but I'm not quite sure. Would you like to have a deeper dive into the feminine and masculine energies? Okay, fantastic. Because that's what we're going to do today. My mission is to help women end the struggle and live in joy and live in peace and have phenomenal results. I don't want you just having all the feel goods. I want you to add a 0 to your income this year. Anybody want to add a 0 to their income this year? 2 zeros is even better. My husband's like 0 placeholder. But yeah, let's do that, shall we? Do you want to have deeper relationships than you've had before? Do you want to love yourself more than you have ever loved yourself? Do you want to turn around your health, turn around whatever it is about your body that you're not loving? Do you want to have a closer, deeper, more personal relationship with your God or your higher power than you've ever imagined? This is what the feminine will allow you to do. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to adjust, we're going to make these slides move. We're just going to keep pushing the button.
Oh, I have to click on the screen.
And where's the other arrow? I have a back arrow, but I don't have
I think we troubleshooted this before.
Oh, but
it's such a great idea.
It was working.
There it is. Oh, thank you. Okay. So we're going to break down feminine and masculine energy. And I'm going to show you the characteristics of each, how we tend to show up in each of those energies, and why it's critical that, especially as women, you learn how to live in your feminine and tap into your masculine instead of the other way around. Now, I know we have some men here. I think we've got some men online as well. This is actually very relevant to you as well, because we're not talking about battle of the sexes. This is not us versus them, men versus women. We're not talking about genders. We're not talking about roles. We're not talking about stereotypes here. These are the 2 energies of creation, masculine and feminine. And you've got to understand how they work because they are meant to work together in balance and in alliance. But balance is not 50-50. For a woman, balance is more like 70-30 or 80-20 feminine versus masculine. With men, you're going to want to really embrace your masculine, but also learn how to tap into feminine because it is such a powerful energy of creation. So the most important thing to understand about feminine and masculine is that the primary function of feminine energy is desire. The primary function of masculine energy is the production of that desire. Masculine energy is divinely designed to serve feminine energy. This does not mean that men have to serve women or women just have to serve men. We're talking about energies here. Masculine thrives on pleasing the feminine. thrives, and feminine thrives on inspiring the masculine. My favorite analogy about masculine and feminine energy is the river and the riverbank. Feminine is the river. If all we have is the river, but no riverbank, you don't have any power. You don't have any direction. The river goes everywhere. And it gets pretty destructive. Like you really don't get anything accomplished because there's no power and there's no direction. But if you just have the riverbank and you have no river, then there's no purpose. There's no reason to continue building a riverbank if there's no river to fill it. That's why masculine supports the feminine. It allows the feminine to flow. It allows your desires to come to you. So the river is feminine, the riverbank is masculine. Only the river, there's no direction. Only the riverbank, there's no purpose. So here is a list of feminine and masculine qualities. And this is not an exhaustive list, but we're going to break this list down. And I'm going to show you some slides, and I'm going to show you some data and some research and some studies. I'm going to share some examples with you about these different energies. Now, if anybody wants a free PDF download of this, raise your hand if you want a download of it. Okay, go to prosperityapproach.com/@a-glance. It's all one word, @a-glance, and you can get a download of this. And the download also includes when we're disempowered in those different energies and how we show up and what our behavior is like when we're disempowered. Yes, prosperityapproach.com/@a-glance. Now, I have a little caveat here. I only work with women, but this is going to be very powerful for men. So men, I want you to be thinking about the women in your life that need this. I have an amazing, brilliant guy, because the way that you're going to tap into your feminine is through your subconscious. And I teach that to women, but I don't teach it to men. But I know a guy who is phenomenal at what he does, and I am very happy to connect you with him. His name's Tony Child, and he is top tier. That was a really awesome pop. I'm proud of myself for that pop. Okay. All right. So my main intention today with you is to play. All right. So I want you to be playful. I want you to be in awareness, and I want you to think to yourself, am I more feminine or am I more masculine? Which way do I generally lean? And I don't want you to go into judgment about it, because I know you will. But I just want you to be in awareness of this. When I first learned this, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm a shorter, less hairy man. Oh crap. So if any of you are like, holy cow, I think I am also a shorter, less hairy man, have no fear. Allyson's here. I'll help you with that. All right. The feminine is the being energy. The masculine is the doing energy. Now, when women are masculinized, we got the doing part nailed, right? Who has the doing nailed? I can't tell you how many clients have come to me that it's like, I got the doing, but show me how I do the be. Like, how do I do the be? And I'm like, oh, sweetheart, you don't. The being energy is the essence of who you are. And what happens when women and the feminine is masculinized, we lose who we really are. We lose our sense of self. Now, women have been masculinized. Men have been neutered. And what happens? Yeah, I was like, in fact, I was talking with Tony about it, and I was like, I think men have been feminized, and he's like, no, they haven't. They've been neutered. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you some examples of how society has neutered men. And everything's just going to blow up when you see how much society has masculinized women. And by the way, this wasn't just happened 30 years ago. This has been through thousands of years. So you don't need to blame your parents or your grandparents. Like, this has been going on for a long, long time. When a man is in being energy, it's very exhausting to him. When women are in being energy, it's actually very energizing to us. I see somebody's big smile on her face. Yes, that being energy fuels us, and it fuels us into the doing. Because when we as women are in the being energy, it opens us up and gets us into flow. It gets us into the river. And the flow is very expansive, and it feels, it helps you stay in the moment. It feels natural to us as women. Now, men, if they're too much in the being, they get restless. And it's very exhausting. Men are wired for doing. Did any of you ever see, was it Sense and Sensibility? That's my husband's favorite movie. I married such an amazing man. Okay, so there's a part where somebody gets really, really sick. Marianne, I think, gets super sick, and the colonel really likes her, and there's nothing he can do. And he's pacing the floor, and he's like, give me a job to do, or I will go mad. And Eleanor is just like sitting with Marianne and just like loving her and just being with her. That's how those two different energies present. Being in too much doing for women is very, very exhausting. And if things don't change, it continues to burn us out. We lose the essence of who we really are. And too much doing energy for women actually, like, literally kills us softly. Physically kills us softly because of the different hormones and chemicals that are released in our body when we're in constant do and we're in constant action. So being will always, always trump doing. The feminine is spontaneous, and the masculine is predictable. Okay. How many of you ladies, if your husband came home tonight and said, honey, we're going on a vacation to New York City, and we're going right now. Pack your bags and let's go. How many of you would have like a meltdown at that? Like, how many of you run through a list in your mind, your to-do list of everything you have to do, and you're like, oh, what about the kids, and what about the dogs, and who's going to get the mail, and I've got all these meetings I have to reschedule, and what are we doing? I need to know how to pack. How many shoes do I need to bring? Like, we start doing this and we get ourselves into a frenzy because we think we like things predictable. But the feminine is spontaneous. Now, this is one of the ways that society has neutered men. We start taking on all of the to-dos. Instead of trusting that if our husband is going to surprise us with a vacation to New York City and we're leaving in an hour, we need to trust that he has the kids handled, that he's got somebody to come in and take care of the dogs and somebody to get the mail, and he's talked to your secretary, whoever needs to talk to rearrange your schedule. But do we trust them, ladies, to get it done? Now we're like, oh, it's so much I have to do. Now, there's a reason why this has happened. There's a reason why we don't trust them. So like, we take the trust away from them. And what we do is we take away the masculinity from our men, because they love the to-dos. They love the action. They love the predictability. And so they, like, the man's no longer like head of the household because you won't let him do anything. You get super mad when he doesn't do anything, but you still, like, you just take that all on yourself. And anybody, are you tracking me right now? Like, does this sound familiar?
I think there are variations.
There are variations, and let me say it, like, there's track records too. Like, I know you've had an experience where you've given your spouse something that you want them to do, and either they don't do it or they don't do it up to your standards. How many of you have a spouse that doesn't clean the bathtub the way you want him to clean the bathtub? And then we're still really grateful for how he cleans the bathtub. But what we do is we give him like one chance, right? And then it's like, you forgot, I can't count on you, so give it back to me. So husband goes in the doghouse and he can never get back, and he can never get out of the doghouse. It's because we're in too much masculine. We have a false sense of safety in the predictable, and the feminine wants to be spontaneous, and men want their women to be spontaneous. They're wanting their women to be feminine. The feminine is intuitive and masculine is logical. This creates an enormous amount of conflict for us as women if we're way too much in the logical side of us, because intuition hits our body. When we're in our body, we're feminine. When we're in our head, we're in our masculine. So we have this internal conflict when we get intuitive hits because they don't make logical sense. Oh, I want to get to here, this goal, Why are you taking me over there that has nothing to do with that goal right there? And it causes this conflict because we're trying to make sense. But intuition is a mental faculty that responds to vibration. The reason why it doesn't make sense is that it's responding to vibration and not timeline. And logic wants timeline and wants it to make sense. This is one of the most amazing gifts that we have as women. Women have a natural connection to the eternal, and we have a deeper sense of intuition than men do. It does not mean that men don't have intuition, but we have a stronger connection with it naturally. And men have other connections more naturally than we do. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it a little, but let me just seed it. Men are natural givers. Women are not. We're natural receivers. So we'll talk about that in a second. Albert Einstein said what did I just do? What did I do? Oh, do I just do a mic drop?
Yeah, I was like,
Mic drop, and I don't even mean to. This is one of my favorite quotes by Albert Einstein. He said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the logical mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Wow. Yeah. Mic drop for Einstein's sake right there. The intuitive mind, the feminine mind, is a sacred gift, and the masculine mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that has honored the masculine and forgotten the feminine. True or true?
True.
Okay. Next on the list. The feminine is playful. The masculine is thinking. Now, here's what happens when we play, ladies. We open ourselves up to resources, don't we? We open ourselves up to expansion and to flow. And play actually increases our energy, doesn't it? But what have we been conditioned to do? We work and then we play. Is the work ever done? No, which means we can't ever play without enormous amounts of guilt because there's so much work to be done, or we feel like we're being punished, right? Like, oh my gosh, now I'm so far behind. Now I'm gonna have to work Saturday. Now I'm gonna have to work 14-hour days for the next month. It's not even worth it to take a vacation because I'm so far behind when I get home. All right. When we get into thinking is very cerebral. It's very masculine. Remember, when we're in our body, we're feminine. When we're in our mind, we're masculine. So when we're like thinking, when you're like, I got to think about this, does that feel expansive or contractive to you? Contractive. It's contractive because immediately, I mean, did you see my shoulders hunch just by saying that? Let me think about this. I just got to think about this. It gets us very serious very quickly. So then we're like down to business mode, right? And that immediately connects us with our masculine and disconnects us from the feminine play. Now, somebody needs to hear this. When I'm talking about feminine and masculine energies and how women need to live in feminine and tap into masculine, you're going to tap into masculine every single day. All right. But it's the way with which you approach the tasks that you're doing that will determine whether you're living in feminine or living in masculine. Men are going to live in their masculine and tap into their feminine. So you're going to do just the opposite of what women are doing. And then, then relationships shift so quickly. Then you finally become the woman in your relationship instead of the man in your relationship. I'll tell you about that one in a minute. That one was delightful for us to experience. The feminine is all about beauty, and the masculine is all about functionality. If I say bachelor's pad, do you know exactly what I'm talking about? Is there a fresh flower to be seen anywhere? Are there good smells to be smelled anywhere in a bachelor's pad?
Yes.
Yes. You have a highly developed sense of feminine energy.
It helps.
If you go to a man cave, you know what I'm talking about with a man cave, right?
My son's apartment.
Your son's apartment. My son's room. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. It's all about functionality. Will this get the job done? Is this functional? Awesome. Let's do it. The feminine is only concerned about beauty, beauty for all of our senses. One of the most beautiful things I love that absolutely pops me into my feminine is conversation and connection. That's one of the ways we play as well as women, is through conversation. And I'll show you some data in just a minute about what's going on in our bodies when we're playing and when we're connecting that way. But the feminine is all about beauty, beautiful smells, beautiful sights, beautiful art, beautiful clothes, beautiful colors. We need more of that beauty. And what happens is we get labeled vain, we get labeled selfish, we get labeled all of these things because of all of our beauty regimens. But what it's doing is popping us into feminine, which opens us up in such glorious ways. I have to share this story with you. Many years ago, we went to a church function and the men's organization was in charge of the function. And I think the theme of the night was anti-women's organization. I'm pretty sure, because we were doing, was it like a dessert taste test? Like a dessert, like a bake-off that we were going to. So the men are in charge of this and they are proud as proud can be that there was nary a tablecloth to be seen on the ugly, beat up 8-foot rectangular tables, let alone a centerpiece. Like, what the world is a centerpiece? We're not even going to do tablecloths. They just tossed out whatever styrofoam was there or plasticware was there. And they were so proud that they had done the anti-women's way of an activity. And I remember thinking, wow, something's lacking here. Wow. I mean, yeah, it makes for faster cleanup, right? They want to be super efficient, but there was nothing beautiful, at least not to the eyes. There wasn't anything aesthetically pleasing. Now, there were some fantastic desserts there, so that they nailed the beauty with some of the desserts. Well, and that's the wise maid, except my husband. He's the one who does all the cooking in our house. He brought a stellar dessert. I do remember that. But that's how it plays out. They just want it to be functional. We don't care if there's doilies. We don't care if it's even, well, they like order. They like logical. They like it to make sense. But beauty, no, they don't. Masculine doesn't care about that. Just cares about functionality. Is it going to get the job done? The feminine is about the invisible, and masculine is about concrete. So let's boil this down and help it to translate. The feminine is about the unknown. And the masculine is about the known. It's like the vision versus the how. We spend way too much time trying to make things concrete. We need to spend more time in the invisible and in the unknown. Another way to say the unknown is possibilities. The feminine is all about possibilities. The feminine is dynamic and the masculine is sturdy. Now, the definition of dynamic is characterized by constant motion, change, or progress. The definition of sturdy is strongly or solidly built. Now, aren't women famous for changing their minds on a dime many times in a day? Like, we have the right to change our mind whenever we want. It's because it's feminine. It's dynamic. Our minds are constantly moving in lots of different directions. The masculine is sturdy. We need sturdy. We need sturdy because sturdy is what helps the feminine be dynamic. Let me give you a real world example. So we've got two people dancing. I want you to look at the feminine, look at the woman and what she's doing. Lots of movement. Could she do that by herself? Could she dance that thing solo and be safe? No. Okay, and she needs that man's arms around her to support her so she can flip and she can lift and she can turn and all the things. Now take the woman out, take the feminine out, and just watch what the masculine is doing. Is there any reason for him to do that if there's no feminine there? Like, there's no reason to do that. This is such a beautiful example of dynamic and concrete and how they work together. We need to work together in balance and in alliance. And look how much more movement she's doing than he's doing. There's a whole lot more movement to feminine energy than there is to masculine energy. The feminine is circular or spiral. The masculine is linear. Real world example. I love girls' nights. And girls' nights, actually, I have to back up. I have to talk about logic. I have to talk about linear. Conversations with a man are very linear. They're very logical. A, B, C, D.
Bottom line.
Bottom line. Get to the point. Make it fast. The less words, the better. Yeah. Yes, man. Is yeah. Are you hearing that? Okay. Are you agreeing? Are you okay? Women, circular and spiral goes like this. All right. So we have a girls' night, and maybe we start in A. We don't stay in A long. We go to K. Then we circle back to A. Then we go to Q. Then we want to go to J. Then we're going to pull in the number 4 and a hashtag. And every woman is like, yeah, every woman tracks that. And marks the eyes.
You get the special characters, and I'm going like.
And that's exactly what happens. I've had girls' night with girlfriends I've had since the 3rd grade, and we get together almost every month and have girls' night. And the husbands will try to come occasionally. And the last time we were there, we start talking, and the husband lasted about 3 minutes. And then he was like, all right, you ladies enjoy yourself. I'm going to the room. And he was gone because it didn't make any sense. And I'll tell you, it is exhausting for men, but what is it for women? It's energizing. You know, not to be too personal, but how many of your husbands love when you go to girls' night because they know they're probably going to get some loving when you get home. Because you're in such a great space because you've been energized. If you're in if you're in with your girlfriends and you love them and it's great conversation. The feminine is vulnerable and the masculine is protective. Can I pull back the curtain here for a minute? I am a recovering perfectionist. And I'm a recovering people pleaser. And you probably didn't know that about me, did you? You probably couldn't sense that from me, that I'm a perfectionist. I took my notes, I took my presentation to my coach on Monday. So if you're a perfectionist, it doesn't mean that you expect everybody else to be perfect, just yourself. So we practice and practice and practice and we script, we don't outline. At least this perfectionist doesn't, she scripts. So I took my script to my coach. He shredded it. He shredded it. He said, Allyson, you are absolutely in your masculine. How can you do that? By teaching feminine. You need to not take any notes with you. And I went, well, my perfectionist went, oh, this is really hard. I have no notes. I see the slide and I just hope to high heaven I can remember the story or the data that goes with the slide. He said, Allyson, you need to play. You need to play with these people and show them what feminine energy looks like. And I guarantee you, I've already forgotten stuff. And so I'm trying to stick it in other places and others. I'm just like, I'll go home and I'll be like, that was what I wrote. That's not the presentation that I gave, but okay. And here's why vulnerability is so vital in feminine, because vulnerability requires trust. And feminine has a natural connection with the eternal. If I am so focused on my notes and I have to show them this study and I have to show how I know what I'm talking about and I'm the expert, then it cuts me off from connecting with you. It cuts me off from my femininity and I can't play. And then what you feel from me is, she says she knows what she's talking about, but I don't really know that she really knows what she's talking about. And you might not cognitively think that, but you'll feel that something is off. Sterile, is that what I heard? Sterile, yeah. And so, but vulnerability is really difficult for us.
Yeah.
Because especially as a perfectionist, okay, Kitty raised her hand and owned that she's a recovering perfectionist. Anybody else? Thank you for your vulnerability. I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice this. I'm going to get in my office by 8. I'll get up at 5. Then I'll have 2 hours where I can practice this thing so that I know what I'm talking about. And I got in there And I was like, because preparation is important. All right. Like it's important that you're prepared and that you're not just like winging it, because that's not feminine energy. That's like no energy at all. And so like, it was important to be prepared, but I was like, do they want to feel something from me? Do they want to see femininity in action? Do they just want me to read something? I would rather experience that from somebody than just like take my word for it, even though I don't practice it. But ladies, I am a work in progress, just like everybody else. When I decided, I texted my coach and I'm like, I'm playing out of 10 today. I'm not bringing any notes, just the slides. And then I put, please pray for me. Because my perfectionist, like instant anxiety. What if you're going to forget? You know, you're going to forget. And I'm like, but you know what? I want more than anything is to live in feminine and tap into masculine. And that requires vulnerability, because it requires me to trust my intuition. It requires me to trust a higher power, know that he's got my back. And that I'm here just to contribute in any way that I can, instead of some specific outcome. Now, the beautiful thing about vulnerability is how much strength there is, because how many of you trust me more now? 1, 2, 3. Not to pressure you or anything, but like, can you feel the difference? So I played. I tapped into my inner 4-year-old. Her name is Sunny. When I was little, they called me Sunny Sunshine. Was that an appropriate name, do you think? Yeah. Like, this is kind of how I show up all the time. So I tapped into Sunny and I was like, sweetie, should we practice this one more time? And she's like, no, I know the song. It's like, you need to go blow bubbles. Let's blow bubbles. And I just so happened to have a tiny little vial of bubbles. And I pulled those things out and I just started blowing bubbles just to play, because I needed to be in that energy instead of all of the structure. The structure is important, but the structure is not the point. The vulnerability and the experience is the point. And then you find there's so much safety and vulnerability, because look how all of you can relate to me. And I know most of you don't know me very well, but I think that raises a sense of safety, that I'm willing to say, holy cow, like I teach this and I still have to remind myself to get into feminine, because we have been so thoroughly conditioned to emphasize masculine and devalue feminine, that I am going against every single thing I've been taught, and that we collectively have been taught for centuries. And that is terrifying. It's terrifying for a moment until you get in there. And then it is so freeing and so liberating. And when we drove down here, because I had gotten into play, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't anxious. I'm like, I just want to connect with people. I'm going to hug those who will let me hug them. But we're just and hopefully we're going to learn something that will make a difference. And then we're going to eat great food. And who doesn't love great food? I mean, is somebody like, how much longer do we have till food? Like, we're just going to be together and love this moment. Masculine is protective. Amazing things happen in relationships when you will be vulnerable. And this goes for men as well as women. Now, being a perfectionist, I think people pleasing is like a companion to perfectionism. And so my people pleasing shows up as don't hurt their feelings, which makes confrontation or difficult conversations enormously painful for me to have. So I've been practicing this. And many times Jeremy's, he's so kind. He doesn't say it, but I know he's like, will you just get to the point already? Because that's his masculine, right? And I'm like all over the map. I don't want to hurt your feelings. But what really helped me is when I came to him and I said, I'm very nervous to say anything to you right now, because I don't want to create a big rift between us. And I don't want you to feel like I don't love you, or I don't appreciate you, or that you're not enough. Because we had arguments in the past where that's how it all kind of blew up, whether he was talking to me about something, a gap he wanted to close, or where I was talking to him. And you know, it was very interesting. It immediately triggered his protection energy. I immediately felt safe just to tell him, I'm feeling really vulnerable right now because this is hard for me to talk about. And he just, I mean, my gosh, you guys, it took me like 20 minutes to tell him, I don't like the way you're cleaning the house. I really love you and appreciate you. And he finally was like, do you just need me to clean the house better? And I'm like, yes, that's what I need. But I had just drawn it out into this huge long thing, and I'm crying and I'm silent because I'm trying to gather my words because, oh my gosh, like it's a real Hollywood story, right, ladies? Like all the stuff we go through mentally, men, you'd be fed up really, really quickly with that because you just want to tolerate it because of the masculine. And we'll talk about that in a second too. All right. Feminine is nurturer and masculine is provider. We have a very difficult time with this, especially as ambitious, driven professional women. We have a very hard time tapping into our nurturer. We're really good with our provider. Am I right? Okay, that's resonating with you as well. So when men are nurturing, it takes a lot of energy. Nurturing for men is very taxing on them. They can't be in it for a very long time. That doesn't mean men aren't nurturers, but they're more natural providers. Let me fix it. I'll provide the solution for you. And the nurturer is like, just cry it all out. And I'm right here. When I was in college, my family just had like all this drama going on. And I came home and just collapsed on the bed. Like, you know, like when Belle runs and just believes herself on the bed when she's in the Beast Castle. It was like that. And I just sobbed. And my roommate came in and didn't say a word. All she did was rub my back and let me cry. She didn't ask what was wrong. She was very, very nurturing. Women are really good at holding that space. If it were, I don't know, my brother, he'd be like, come on, let's fix this. All right. Like, are you done crying yet? Are you done so we can get to a solution? All right. Because they want to provide. Anybody feeling like a smaller, less hairy man right now? Okay, remember, just awareness. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad about this, but we need to be in awareness. Because how many of you have had success in masculine energy? How many of you had great success in masculine energy? But what's it cost you? How many have had great success in masculine energy, but still felt playful and still felt peaceful and still took time off and still tapped into your intuition and allowed yourself to be guided into different directions? It comes at a really, really high price. And here's the thing. Here's just a little nugget. Money doesn't follow masculine. Money follows feminine. Money follows feminine. You must lead. You must lead with feminine. You can make good money in masculine.
Yeah.
You can make wonderful money in masculine. But it's the price tag is your soul. For a woman, the price tag is your joy. The price tag is who you are. Because your feminine gets drowned out and your identity and your purpose for being here, why you're even here. When you're in so much masculine, there's no feminine. What do you think? Why am I even doing this? What's the point? I remember telling my mentor at that time, the woman who taught me about feminine, I was like, I want to get back to $20,000 months, but not in the way that I did it, because no amount of money is worth what I paid internally to get there. Annihilating my family, long days, terror. I was waking up at 2 o'clock every morning with my guts twisted in anxiety because I didn't feel like I was enough to actually hold this thing, much less grow this thing. I'm like, no amount of money is worth that. But when you will get into your feminine, like, here's the secret sauce, everybody. If you will live in your feminine, the likelihood of you adding 1 or 2 zeros to your income this year raises exponentially. It is very, very likely that that will happen. And not just that, you'll have deeper connections with your clients, deeper connections with your team, with your family. You will fall in love with your life again. The sparkle will come back into your eyes. You won't feel like you have to wear the "it's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine" mask. You'll feel more alive than you have ever felt. And that's how you'll heal. And by you healing, your spouse will heal. Your children will heal. Like, we all talk about, like, feminine's going to heal the world. Yeah, it will. And it starts with one woman at a time. That's how we're going to change the world, by changing ourselves. but it is a process. And it's scary at first because it takes an enormous amount of trust and doing it the exact opposite way that you've been taught. And that is terrifying at first. Question, comment?
I think maybe a lot of people are gonna relate to this. What if you're forced into your masculine based on traumatic events?
What if you're forced into your masculine based on traumatic events from being in your feminine?
From not being supported by masculine.
Anybody relate to that? Like being forced into your masculine because of trauma? Well, that's understandable, right? Like fix this. We need to do this. Oh, I shared this with somebody and then I was betrayed. Or I actually let somebody see who I really was or who I really am, and they used it against me, or whatever that looks like financially in your
Could be a
relationships.
myriad of things, like,
Yeah.
you know, single women in general, you know, if their husbands abandon, and then you're forced to be in that position to provide and nurture all at the same time.
And you can.
Yeah.
And you can, because remember, everybody has both masculine energy and feminine energy. And you can, we're just going to use an example of a single mom and abandonment issues and all of that. That gets to be healed, and you can actually heal that really fast. You can heal those issues really quickly. You don't have to spend years in therapy to heal them. Those are different conversation. I can talk with you about that later if that interests you. But if you'll start in your feminine and your approach is in the feminine, I'm gonna nurture. So let me give you an example. If you got to make dinner for your family and you're providing, then you're just like, all right, what's in the fridge? What's super fast? I want to be efficient. All right. If you don't like it, then you're on your own. Make yourself a peanut butter sandwich. I don't care. Here's what we're having. Here's the two options. Take it or leave it. Like you fed your family. If you're nurturing your family, you can do the same thing. All right, I'm going to open the fridge and let's see what's here. And oh, we're going to have leftovers tonight because I know so-and-so loves the leftovers. And oh, that actually looks really good right now. So you're making this all together. Oh, if you don't like what we're having, oh, it's okay. We got peanut butter and honey in the pantry. We got some bread. So go ahead and make yourself a peanut butter sandwich. Do you see how you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it in a different energy? And now you're nurturing.
Yeah, but you do that so long, but then after a while, women get really exhausted.
Yes, we'll talk about that because women aren't natural givers. It means your receiving cycle is off.
Yeah.
And so you won't have a hard time receiving.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Don't worry, we'll get there.
Just turning it into play. Put on some music.
Turn it into play.
Yeah.
Dance in the kitchen when you're making dinner.
Yeah. I mean, there's really simple
So you're
ways.
creating a situation where we actually don't even need them.
Well, no, because remember, we can't be dynamic without something sturdy to support us.
You know, I guess men have been feminized for so long that we're like, where is that?
Men have been neutered for so long, and women have been masculinized for so long that we're led to believe that men don't need women and women don't need men. And that's not true, but we need us healed. We need us healed and we need us whole.
Yes.
I want to share a quick story with you about nurturer and provider. So my business exploded a couple of years ago. Over the last 3 years, we've done almost 3 million in sales. And well, thank you. Thank you. It was fun until it wasn't, because the masculines crept back in. So now I'm eating my own dog food here and being super vulnerable with that. And this is the year of the experiment. It's going to be fan-freaking-tastic. I digress. So 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, like probably next month, it was 2 years. Our daughter was 14 at the time and going through tremendous challenges. She was anorexic, she was cutting, she had massive social anxieties. It still hurts my heart to talk about it. And my husband was at a job, he was working full time. And I remember talking to him, like I had to take her to all these different therapies. She had a concussion and she didn't get properly treated for her concussion. And so it created all these problems. So I was taking her to 3 or 4 different therapies. I see some people nodding. Have you had this experience before? Concussions are nasty bitches. They just are. So I'm taking her to appointments. I'm growing a team. My business is exploding. And I remember telling Jeremy, I will do this as long as I need to. I will nurture our daughter and I'll provide what she needs. But you are going to have to scrape me up off the floor every 3 days, probably, for this to happen. And because our mama hearts and our mama bear will go way past the point of exhaustion for our children because we're nurturing, but there's also a big price that we're paying for that. And as we were talking about it, he came home one day and he was like, I think I need to quit my job. I think I need to be home full time and have Peyton be my full-time job. And I was very concerned about that because I know I live in masculine more than I do feminine. And I didn't want to become the provider because you know what that does? It makes me resentful. It makes me irritated. I get super martyry about everything. And I didn't want to be the man and the woman because I'd been the man for so long in our marriage and I was finally getting it and being the woman. And so I was really concerned about that. And I was talking to another guy he was another mentor at the time, and I told him my concerns, and he said, oh, no, you don't have to worry about going over into the provider role because this is just going to look different. The end goal is going to be the same, where you're going to make money and Peyton's going to be taken care of and all of the things. It's just going to take a different form to get there. What he is providing for you is emotional support and space so that you can create and you can grow your company. And so that you also have energy to nurture. So what you're creating, like you're not building a company, you're creating this company and these experiences that you want to have with your family and a life and a lifestyle you want to create with your family. Creation energy is feminine energy. Building energy is masculine energy. I didn't want to build anymore. I wanted to create. So although I was the one making the money, I was in absolute nurturing for it because it wasn't just money to make money. It was money because we want to go to Italy and we want to spend a month in Hawaii and we want to drive a Tesla and have a ton of fun with that. And we want to take the kids to Disney World all the time. Like it had a purpose and it had vision to it. And have there been bumps in the road over the past couple of years? Of course, there have been bumps in the road, but man, he feeds me regularly. He waters me all throughout the day. Do you forget to eat, ladies? Yeah, you forget to drink. So you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so parched and I have a headache. Yeah, like that's how he provides for me. And he provides healthy foods and he just sits it in front of my desk. And I'm like, I'm not hungry. And he's like, that's okay. When you're ready, it's there. And it always gets eaten. Instead of me going 10 hours without eating anything, like, so it gets to look differently, but he is 100% in his provider role and that provider energy, which allows me to be in my nurturing energy. It's so beautiful. Great. One of the greatest blessings that we have had and one of the greatest miracles. The feminine is all about community. It's all about the we. The masculine is about the individual. It's about I. Now, the reason why feminine is actually all about community. Do some of you hate networking or do you love networking? Who are my network haters here? I don't like networking. How many are like lone wolves? We got a couple of lone wolves over here. Women are actually wired for community and connection more than men are. And that's why community is so vital. And that's why community is feminine, because feminine is a pulling energy. It's a gathering energy. Masculine is a pushing energy. And so we need that connection. Our brains are wired for connection as women. Luann Brezadine, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She wrote a book called The Female Brain, and she's a medical doctor, and she's done studies for 30 years about boys and girls and men and women. And what she found was really fascinating is that when girls and women connect through talking and we have that community, amazing things happen in the brain. The pleasure centers in our brains are activated and we get flooded with dopamine and oxytocin. It's not just little amounts. Our whole brain is saturated in those hormones. Dopamine is the hormone that's released when you have a sense of accomplishment. It's why those of you who are ruled by your to-do list will write, take a shower, even though you know you're going to take a shower just so you can cross it off. Who does that? Drink some water, go to the bathroom. Like, yeah, because we get hit, we get a dopamine hit when we do that. It's the hormone that's released through productivity, through motivation, and through accomplishment. And oxytocin is the cuddle hormone. It gets activated and it's released through intimacy, not sex. Those are two different things. It's through intimacy. That does not happen in boys' brains when they're talking. So they did studies, little 3 and 4 year old girls and little 3 and 4 year old boys, and looked to see how they played together. The little girls immediately went into community and they had conversations back and forth. They avoided conflict. If somebody wanted to do a certain role, they would ask, I'll be the teacher, okay? And they would get consent from people. It was very important to have that social, that social connection was at the core of these little girls. And then they watched the little boys who were 3 and 4. Who's ever had a 3 or 4 little boy? Are they about listening at all? Are they about communication at all or sharing? No, so they would use communication and talking to command others. They didn't listen to their partner. They wanted to boss people around. They would threaten people. They use it as status. So like, and this is just how we're wired. They're all about the individual. They want to stake their claim. Like that's the masculine. I'm staking my claim. It's all about pecking order for boys, and they don't like their authority challenged. So now we've got women and men, and the feminine is about the community. Like you just got to get in the right community. Like these are my peeps, especially as perfectionists and super driven women. Our communities are kind of small because we think differently from most people. And so we have a hard time relating to others, and like frankly, like we just hate others' drama, right? Like, it's not my drama. I don't like your drama. So anyway, again, I digress. But we love that connection. We need that connection. We need that community. And so for women, we try to avoid social conflict, and that relationship is very important to us. Men want to be respected. Women really want to be loved and adored, and men want to be appreciated and respected. And that's the difference between the masculine and the feminine. All right, now I told you we're going to talk about receiving and giving. Feminine is all about receiving because it's a pulling energy. Masculine is all about giving. It's a pushing energy. All right, so who are my bad receivers? Who has a hard time receiving help, compliments? You won't ask for anything. Okay, and you wear it like a badge of honor. I have a very hard time trusting and receiving. Oh, good. You hate it. Okay. So this is what you do when you're a bad receiver. You give over and over until, you know that saying, my cup runneth over? Your cup runneth on fumes all the time. So then what happens? You're resentful. You feel picked on. You feel underappreciated. You feel devalued. You get super martyry. You get manipulative. You try to guilt people. And then you feel really guilty that you're not showing up as your highest self. Women are not natural givers. We are natural receivers. Does this mean that women don't give? No, of course not. It doesn't mean that women don't serve either. But what happens is the approach is off because we forget to receive first and then give. So have you heard the saying, serve from the saucer, not from the cup? Anybody heard that? What that means is you serve from your overflow and your excess. But the way we've translated is I got to fill up my cup so I can serve other people. No, you got to fill up your cup for you. You got to fill up your cup so you're radiant, so that you are in love with life, so that you feel peaceful, so that you can be playful. You fill up your cup for nobody but you. And what's really beautiful about it is that very quickly your cup spills over. Now you have overflow. That's why we have the saucer. You serve from there. You serve from the saucer and the overflow, not the cup. So when you're serving and you start to feel depleted, I need to go receive something. I need a massage. Yes. It's not a luxury. It's critical. It's one of the most fabulous ways I receive. All right, but then we're just like, oh, I feel so guilty and oh, it's so expensive and oh, I can put this off or whatever the chatter may be. But when you understand like this is just for you and nobody else, then suddenly you'll take days off. You'll let yourself sleep in. You'll discipline yourself up. You'll discipline yourself to get up early so that you can connect, so that you can receive. Anybody here meditate? Do you know the one and only purpose of meditation is? You know what it is?
Back to yourself.
It's to receive. Meditation, if you do it right, opens you up to receiving. Meditation is 100% feminine. Because most of you said connect to yourself. And is that masculine or is that feminine?
Feminine.
Feminine, 100%. If you'll start your day in meditation, everything will change. Now, men, remember, the feminine is very pleased when the feminine inspires masculine, like the feminine thrives on inspiring masculine and the masculine thrives on pleasing the feminine. So when you have your guy serving you, notice it and say, thank you so much. And our men are just little boys inside, just like we're little girls inside. So go over the top. Thank you. You're my hero. You gave me so much space. I appreciate you so much. And they'll do this. They won't say anything. They'll try not to smile. Mine tries not to smile. But his chest puffs out just a little bit. And then we're like, well, why doesn't anybody praise me for cleaning the toilet? Well, that's when you ask for what you desire. I would like some praise for cleaning the toilet, please. And then they are more than happy to give it to you. You just got to receive it. All right. Not asking for what you want is an indication that you're a bad receiver. My favorite explanation of feminine and masculine, and this came to me as I was pondering. The feminine is about the experience and the masculine is about execution. And we have become so consumed with the execution that we've forgotten about the experience. So how does this translate? What do you want to experience as you're executing on your tasks? Because remember, we don't just tap into masculine once a week and then everything is due on Wednesday. Like we have to tap into masculine all throughout the day. But what's the experience you want to have? And you get to name your terms. You get to decide what experience it is you want. Do you want flow? Do you want peace? Do you want playfulness? Do you want connection? That's what intention, you can have all of them. This didn't make this particular list, but the feminine is about the and. Feminine is about the or. So can you have peace and play and connection and make money and have a smoking hot bod and have great intimacy with your spouse and wonderful relationships with your coworkers and your children? Yes. And go to Italy for 2 weeks with your family? Yes. And live in the house you want, in the neighborhood you want? Yes. And be closer to God than you have ever experienced in your life and had greater trust and greater magic in your life? Yes. You take the stand for the and. What's the experience that you want? I call it living life on your terms, but you got to get really clear on what your terms are, because life will meet whatever your terms are. So if you've got terms of, okay, I got to work really hard in order to make a whole lot of money, and this is going to take a long time, then life says, okay, that's the experience that you just said you want to have. That's the experience I'm going to give you. Life will always meet you on your terms. You are so much more powerful than you think. So what happens if nothing changes? What happens if you continue to live in masculine and only tap into feminine? What happens in your marriage?
Burnout.
You get burned out. You start thinking, what's the point? You do what I did unconsciously and you blow up your business in a really bad way, which actually ended up being the greatest blessing ever. But you get very self-destructive. If you are a man in your marriage or in your relationship, we have seen the data and we've seen the research, and that ends in cheating and divorce. If you continue to show up as a man, masculine is attracted to feminine. Remember, feminine is a pulling energy. Men don't want to be married to another guy. They want feminine, even gay men, even homosexual relationships. You know who's the feminine one in that relationship and who's the masculine one in that relationship, because it's about energy. And feminine energy attracts masculine energy. Your husband doesn't want to be married to a dude. He doesn't want you to be his buddy.
Things like that, I didn't want to be married to a chick.
And you don't want to be married to a chick. You don't, and there are plenty of men that, there are some men that have more feminine than masculine, and there are some women that have more masculine than feminine. That's completely fine. It's the way that it's where we live. It's how we approach it. And so, like, our cycles are all off. Our men are neutered. We are masculinized. You'll push your children away. Well, yeah, I mean, mom got all this great stuff for us, but she was never around. Even though you're like, I went to all your games, I did all of this stuff, but do you know what they mean? You weren't present. You didn't look them in the eye. You were on your phone. Being present is feminine, it's part of the experience. This is why it's so critical to know this now. And to not judge yourself. We're not going to go into any sort of judgment. You didn't know what you didn't know. And now hopefully you know a little bit more. Has this been valuable? Has this been a little eye-opening for you?
Yes.
Well, I have an event that I'm doing next week that I would love for you ladies to come to. It's called Success the Feminine Way. And we're going to do a deep dive into the feminine. If you've liked this conversation, we are going to dive into it. Hun, will you pass out the order forms?
You want just this one?
Yeah, just that one for now.
Good.
So some of the things we're going to be discussing is the old success model versus the new success model. The old success model is based on hard work and 100% masculine. We're going to talk about the new success model, which is feminine. We're going to talk about our natural connection with the eternal and how to hone our intuition. We're going to talk about pressure versus pleasure. If you can get into pleasure, you will change your entire life. And pleasure is not pornographic. And sensual isn't pornographic either. It is inherently feminine, but society has made it pornographic and something to be ashamed of. But pleasure will change your whole life and will get you phenomenal results. We're going to show you how to end burnout once and for all. And at the end of the day, how do you live in your feminine and tap into your masculine when you need to? And we're going to show you practical ways to do that, because I don't know if you can tell this about me, but I don't like just playing in theory. I want to know, how does this translate to me? How do I actually like apply this in my life? So it's going to be at the Grand America, and we're going to feed you for 2 days. And has anybody been to the Grand before? Oh my good golly, right? Like, you want to talk feminine, you want to talk luxury, you want to talk about beauty. We're going to be in that for 2 full days. You're going to get a playbook. We're going to be able to do some deep dives for these things so that you can shift your whole life so quickly. Now, normally it is $14.97. I want you to take your pens. Those of you on Zoom, I'll give you a promo code here in just a minute. So I want you to take your pen and I want you to cross out $14.97 off the top of that and write $4.97 next to it. One thing I really, really appreciate is your time. That's the only non-renewable resource. And I hope that this has been worth your time. And to say thank you for that, we're going to save you $1,000 off the ticket price. And we are going to spend 2 amazing days in this energy. Those of you who are on Zoom, you can go to prosperityapproach.com/live and type in the promo code special offer. It's all in caps. It's all one word, special offer. I don't know if somebody's playing on the chat. Are you playing on the chat, Missy? Yep. Will you pop that in there? prosperityapproach.com/live. Oh, hey, I think I have it on the slide. So it's next Wednesday and Thursday. If you can't come next week, I am doing another one March 13th and 14th. And that price is good for today. And so if you can't come to this one, I'm doing them all this year. And so we won't do any refunds, but you can just move your ticket to another time that we're doing an event. So don't let that stop you from joining us.
Prosperity, what was your?
prosperityapproach.com/live.
Okay.
And then special offer is the promo code, all in caps.
Okay. You have your website on here, and is there?
For those of you who were here, you can just fill that out and give the order form to Jeremy, and then we'll put it in there for you. Okay, so here's my perfectionism. It woke me up at 3 o'clock this morning, and I went, oh crap, I made the wrong kind of copies. It was supposed to be a carbon copy where they can rip off the back and they can keep it as a receipt. But since I'm working on that perfectionism, I was like, they can take a picture. That'll work as a receipt. It's okay.
Better done than perfect.
Go back to sleep. Thank you. Yes. Don't get done. Don't get perfect. My saying is don't get good, get done. And then good will come. And that has soothed my perfectionism over the years. And now we're at next level of healing perfectionism. So yeah. So thank you so much for playing with me and for letting me to contribute this way. I appreciate you so much. And I'm going to be around to answer any questions. Do we have questions?
None on chat. As of right now, anybody have
The room.
Kitty.
One potential question could be time for that is.
Oh,
that's an
9
all
to
day.
5. Yeah, it's an all day, 9 to 5, and we'll feed you lunch. Beautiful, luxurious lunch. Yeah, 9 to 5.
And then we'll get a spa after,
And get a
massage in their spa. It's fabulous.
Yes.
That sounds fantastic.
So this might be just a side question for you, but I literally have a boy that just turned 4. And when you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh. And so for me, like I struggle all the time because he doesn't listen, he yells, he hits, he screams, he has temper tantrums, and I'm like, I have girls. So I'm like, I just have to ask, like, what is your one thing that you would recommend for those of us who have boys? Because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, because I'm used to having all girls.
Who actually play nicely together.
Yeah.
So I raised 3 boys. I have 4 younger brothers who were quite rambunctious even as men. What I would say to you is, first of all, be really patient with him, because it's not that he's being disrespectful or he's being naughty. Like, boys can't hear girls. They like their brains, they literally can't hear them. And so if he's not hearing you, it's not because he's being naughty. It's because he can't hear you. Boys are very single focused. Men are single focused. Women have what's called diffuse awareness. And so what that means is, if he's in a play group and he wants the gun, then that is what he's focused on. And he does not care who he hits or the screams. He can't even hear the screams. All he knows is he's got to get that gun. Like, that is his mission. And so to get his attention, you need to touch him. You need to cup your hands on his face and have him look you in the eyes, because they're single folks. Can I share a story with you about that really fast? So my girlfriend is the only girl in her family as well. And she has 3 boys, and she decided to do a little experiment to see how long it would take them to take the blanket that she left at the top of the stairs between the family room and the kitchen for one of them to put it away. After 3 weeks of watching them step over the blanket to get to where they needed to go, she had it. And she was like, why isn't anybody picking up the blanket? Do you know what they told her? We didn't see it. They weren't, her husband was not being a jerk. Her kids were not being bad kids. They literally didn't see it, because where are they going? They're going to the kitchen. They want food. They're not going to see a blanket. They don't even know that they've stepped over it, because they're single focused. And so you've got to get their attention. Like with Jeremy, I have to just be like, hey, hon, like, look at me, set it down, look at me, because he's very single focused. That is a very, very masculine trait. So I would do that with him, and that is going to save you so much irritation and so much like, why is he so naughty? He's not.
Well, it's
He's
just
white.
like I said, I like not listening, and when he doesn't get his way, it's just like he has temper tantrums that I don't even know.
Yes, make sure that he's safe and away from you, so you don't have to listen to the temper tantrum, and then it will play itself out. Because yeah, they've got one mission and one mission only, and it's to get their way.
He's
So
just like a 5-year-old girl. I've got one too. We'll trade. I'll take your boy. I'm like so masculine.
Great.
yeah. Yeah, it's that will help. That will help you know.
So awesome.
Thank you.
So you are welcome. So,
Awesome.
all
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Allyson. We really appreciate you coming in. Kitty, thank you for arranging this to have her here with you. And everyone here, thank you for attending. We really wanted January 2023 to be an awesome experience, and we're starting it off the right way. Absolutely the right way. And I know Jeff and Lynn and Sydney and Ashley, they all just got back and they've all kind of got like a cold. So I know that they would say thank you from the bottom of their heart. So we're going to open it up to lunch. And again, thank you so much. Please get on and use that promo code Kitty. Do you have a question?
I want to say two things really quick. Number one, about this awesome event coming up. I will be there. My mother will be there. We're already registered. Come play with us. We'll have a blast. It'll be fun.
Yes.
What's the website?
prosperityapproach.com/live, LIVE.
No.
I've been to Allison's events in the past. Amazing. We'll have a blast and we'll feel very pampered and cared for in the process. And number two, on lunch,
Mhm.
we just had a baby gender reveal party
Yeah.
yesterday and
Yeah.
I made a bunch of cookies and I had extras. And so for those that are here, there's
Yes, Nikki
Extra
is having a
feedback.
boy. For all of you that don't know, our little Nikki downstairs.
Yeah.
She's having a boy. So I'm excited. And we also want to thank our lunch sponsor that actually could not be here. It's Josh Cavalier with SilverBack Home Warranty. And literally, he is scooping in just like the home warranty does and taking care of business. His parents' house is flooded and they haven't even moved in yet. So he's taking care of the warranty part exactly like he should be. So thank you again, Josh. Thank you again, Allyson, for coming. And you guys, thanks again. Please enjoy lunch and thank you all for attending online. We'll see you soon.
I just handed out, or Jeremy's handing out a little QR code, and that will pull up like all the ways that you can stay connected with me. So, and it's got the at a glance on there, and it's got the event on there, so.